Have you ever felt invisible, overlooked, taken advantage of? That polite yes you gave, the favor you did, the words you swallowed, all in the name of being kind. What if I told you that your kindness could be silently chaining you, holding you back from the life you deserve? Today, we're going to break those chains. It's time to stop being kind and start being unstoppable. This is not about becoming cruel. It's about becoming powerful, confident, and in control of your destiny. Welcome to the Voice Library. I am your narrator, and this audiobook is your roadmap to reclaiming your power. In a world that often confuses kindness with weakness, those who remain polite at all costs frequently miss out on opportunities, respect, and even happiness. In the next hours, you will learn how to stop letting others dictate your time and energy. Set powerful boundaries without guilt. Speak your truth and demand respect. Transform your mindset to create a life of freedom, influence, and confidence. Are you ready? Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Hidden Cost of Being Too Nice. Kindness feels good until it doesn't. At first, it seems natural to help others, to say yes when someone asks for a favor, or to put other people's needs above your own. After all, being kind is widely celebrated, and many of us are raised to believe that being nice is inherently virtuous. But here is the truth that most people never tell you. Being too nice can quietly drain you. It can diminish your self-worth, erode your boundaries, and even prevent you from achieving your goals. Kindness without boundaries, unchecked generosity, and the constant need to please others is not just a harmless trait. It can become a trap that holds you back from living the life you truly deserve. People-pleasing often starts innocently. You may say yes to avoid conflict, out of guilt, or because you fear disappointing someone. You may constantly prioritize other people's happiness over your own. You might even believe that your value is measured by how much you give or how agreeable you are. Over time, however, these behaviors begin to have a hidden cost. When you constantly give without considering your own needs, you are essentially signaling to the world that your own time, energy, and desires are less important than anyone else's. This creates an imbalance that can leave you emotionally exhausted and mentally depleted. One of the most subtle ways this manifests is through manipulation by others. Not everyone who asks for your help has pure intentions. Some people may exploit your generosity without you realizing it. Subtle manipulation can take many forms. For example, a colleague might repeatedly ask you to cover their work or take on extra tasks, knowing that you will agree because you do not want to say no. A friend might constantly ask for emotional support without reciprocating, draining your energy with their problems while offering little consideration for yours. Even family members, whom you might think love you unconditionally, can exploit your tendency to be accommodating. They may make unreasonable demands, guilt you into helping them, or expect you to put their needs above your own. In these situations, your kindness is being used as a tool, and the cost is not immediately visible. It accumulates silently, day after day. Chronic niceness also reduces self-worth in ways that are easy to overlook. When you are constantly seeking approval or validation from others, your sense of identity becomes dependent on external feedback. You begin to measure your value by how helpful, agreeable, or accommodating you are, rather than by who you are as a person. Over time, this can lead to feelings of inadequacy and low self-esteem. You may find yourself thinking, "I am only worthwhile if I am helping someone else," or "if I say no, people will stop liking me." These thoughts erode your confidence and create a cycle where you give even more, hoping to feel valued or accepted. But no matter how much you give, the The sense of self-worth derived from external approval is fleeting and unreliable. Another hidden cost of being too nice is the impact it has on your relationships. While you may be well-intentioned, others may begin to take your kindness for granted. People may start to expect it, assuming you will always say yes, always help, always accommodate. This expectation can create resentment, not in them, but in you. You may feel frustrated, trapped, or even angry at yourself for allowing others to take advantage of you. At the same time, those who truly respect you may not take you seriously because your boundaries are unclear. Being overly nice can send the wrong message that your needs and opinions are secondary and that you are easily manipulated or swayed. Recognizing the first signs that you are giving too much is critical to breaking free from this cycle. There are several key indicators that your kindness may be harming you. First, notice how you feel after helping others. Do you feel genuinely fulfilled, or do you feel drained, anxious, or resentful? If your emotional energy is consistently depleted, it is a warning sign that you may be overextending yourself. Second, pay attention to your thoughts and motivations. Are you helping others because you genuinely want to, or because you fear conflict, rejection, or disapproval? If your actions are driven primarily by guilt or fear, you are likely caught in a people-pleasing pattern. Third, observe how others respond to your generosity. Do they respect your time and boundaries, or do they take advantage of your willingness to say yes? Healthy relationships are reciprocal. If your kindness is one-sided, it may be harming you more than it is helping anyone else. The consequences of unchecked niceness extend beyond emotional fatigue. They can affect your mental and even physical health. Studies have shown that people who chronically put others' needs above their own are more likely to experience stress, anxiety, and depression. The constant pressure to please others creates a persistent sense of tension, and over time, it can take a toll on your body as well. Headaches, digestive issues, and insomnia are common physical manifestations of chronic stress. By ignoring your own needs and overextending yourself for others, you are sacrificing your well-being, often without even realizing it. Breaking free from the hidden cost of being too nice begins with awareness. You must recognize the patterns in your behavior, understand the impact they are having on your life, and make a conscious decision to change. This does not mean becoming cruel, selfish, or indifferent. It means setting boundaries, valuing your own needs, and learning to say no when necessary. It means realizing that your worth is not defined by how much you give to others, but by who you are as a person and how you honor your own life. One of the first steps is to redefine what kindness truly means. True kindness is not about sacrificing yourself for others. It is about acting with empathy and compassion while maintaining respect for your own needs. It is about helping others because you choose to, not because you are obligated, afraid, or manipulated. When you understand this, kindness becomes a source of strength rather than a source of weakness. Another crucial step is to practice self-reflection. Take time to evaluate your habits and tendencies. Ask yourself, am I helping others because it feels good, or because I am afraid of saying no? Am I overextending myself in ways that leave me exhausted or resentful? Am I allowing others to take advantage of my generosity? By honestly assessing your behavior, you can identify areas where you need to set boundaries and reclaim your power. Learning to say no is an essential skill in this process. Saying no does not make you a bad person. It makes you a person who values yourself. It creates space for you to focus on what matters most in your own life, your goals, your passions, and your well-being. Setting boundaries is not selfish. It is necessary. Boundaries protect your energy, preserve your self-respect, and ensure that your kindness is meaningful rather than depleting. Finally, surround yourself with people who respect your boundaries and appreciate your presence. Healthy relationships are reciprocal and mutually supportive. When you stop being overly accommodating, you will naturally attract people who value you for who you are, rather than what you can do for them. This shift not only improves your relationships, but also strengthens your confidence and sense of self-worth. Being too nice may have felt comfortable and familiar, but it comes at a cost. The hidden toll of chronic people-pleasing is significant. It can drain your energy, diminish your self-esteem, and even undermine your health. The good news is that you can change this pattern. By becoming aware of your tendencies, setting clear boundaries, and prioritizing your own needs, you can reclaim your power without losing your compassion. Kindness can coexist with strength, empathy can exist alongside assertiveness, and generosity can flourish when it is balanced with self-respect. It is time to recognize the hidden cost of being too nice and take the first steps toward a life where kindness no longer diminishes you. This chapter is the foundation for everything that follows. Once you understand how giving too much can hold you back, you are ready to learn how to harness your power, speak your truth, and take control of your life. Being kind should feel empowering, not exhausting, and from this moment forward, that is exactly what it will become. Chapter 2. Understanding your personal power. Power is a word that often carries a heavy, sometimes negative connotation. Many people associate power with control over others, dominance, or even aggression. But real personal power is very different. It is not about forcing your will on the world or manipulating those around you. True power begins within. It is the ability to own your choices, take responsibility for your life, and act intentionally rather than reactively. Understanding your personal power is the key to breaking free from patterns of people-pleasing and reclaiming control over your life. Too often, we look for power in external sources. We think power comes from wealth, status, or influence over others. While these may provide temporary control in certain situations, they do not create the inner strength needed to live a fulfilling, confident life. Real power comes from self-awareness, self-respect, and the ability to navigate life with intention and clarity. It comes from understanding who you are, what you value, and how to align your actions with those values. Without this internal foundation, external accomplishments can feel hollow, and the approval of others will always feel necessary. Personal power begins with self-awareness. To understand your power, you must first understand yourself. This means taking an honest look at your strengths, weaknesses, desires, and motivations. It means asking difficult questions. What do I truly want? What are my non-negotiables? When do I feel most confident? When do I feel drained or compromised? By exploring these questions, you begin to identify patterns in your behavior, particularly patterns that may have contributed to giving away your energy or compromising your boundaries. Self-awareness allows you to recognize when you are acting out of obligation, fear, or the desire to please others, rather than acting from a place of personal choice and intention. Once you begin to understand yourself, the next step is accepting responsibility for your life. Personal power cannot exist without ownership. This means acknowledging that your decisions, actions, and reactions are ultimately your own. It means recognizing that, while you cannot control the behavior of others, you can control how you respond. Many people give away their power by blaming others, waiting for circumstances to change, or relying on external validation. By taking responsibility, you reclaim authority over your choices. You begin to see that you are not a passive participant in life. You are an active creator of your experience. A critical aspect of personal power is learning to define your own boundaries. Boundaries are the lines that separate what is acceptable from what is not, both for yourself and for others. They are a declaration of self-respect. Without clear boundaries, you leave your energy and emotions vulnerable to exploitation. People may take advantage of your generosity, overstep your limits, or even manipulate your kindness. By establishing boundaries, you assert your needs and protect your well-being. Boundaries are not selfish. They are necessary for maintaining balance and ensuring that your power is preserved. Another component of personal power is cultivating confidence. Confidence is not arrogance or entitlement. It is a quiet, steady belief in your ability to navigate life and handle challenges. Confidence comes from knowing your worth, trusting your instincts, and standing firm in your decisions. When you are confident, you are less likely to be swayed by the opinions or expectations of others. You are able to make choices that align with your values, rather than choices that merely please those around you. Confidence is a skill that can be developed through practice, reflection, and intentional action. It is also essential to understand the difference between influence and control. Many people mistakenly equate power with the ability to control others. True personal power, however, is about influence, using your energy, presence, and actions to create positive outcomes without coercion or manipulation. Influence stems from authenticity, integrity, and competence. When you act from a place of genuine self-respect, others naturally respond to your energy and gravitate toward you. Influence grows organically, but control requires force, often creating resistance, conflict, or resentment. By focusing on influence rather than control, you harness your power in a way that is sustainable, ethical, and aligned with your values. Understanding your personal power also requires an honest assessment of your fears. Fear is one of the primary forces that limits human potential. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of failure, all of these can keep you trapped in patterns of people-pleasing and self-sacrifice. Recognizing these fears is the first step toward overcoming them. Instead of letting fear dictate your choices, use it as a guide to understand where you need to assert yourself, set boundaries, or take courageous action. When you confront your fears directly, your personal power grows. You learn that fear is not a signal to retreat. It is an invitation to step forward with intention. A practical exercise for understanding your power is to identify your core values. Values are the principles that guide your life and inform your decisions. They are the standards by which you measure yourself and others. When you know your values, it becomes easier to make choices that align with your authentic self rather than reacting to external pressures. Take time to reflect. What matters most to me? What qualities do I want to embody? What kind of relationships, work, and lifestyle align with my values? When your actions reflect your values, your personal power becomes visible, tangible, and undeniable. Another critical practice is learning to say no with confidence. Saying no is a direct expression of personal power. It signals that you value your time, energy, and priorities. It communicates that you are not willing to compromise your well-being for the comfort or convenience of others. People who struggle to say no often sacrifice their power to maintain the illusion of harmony or avoid conflict. By practicing the art of saying no, you reclaim control over your life. Each no is an assertion of your autonomy, a declaration that your needs matter, and a reinforcement of your personal boundaries. Personal power is also strengthened through intentional action. It is not enough to understand your power in theory. You must practice it daily. This involves making conscious choices that align with your values, taking responsibility for your life, and asserting yourself when necessary. Each small decision to honor yourself, each boundary you uphold, and each fear you confront adds to your reservoir of power. Over time, These actions create a momentum that transforms your life, allowing you to act with authority and confidence in all areas. It is important to note that understanding your personal power does not mean abandoning kindness, empathy, or compassion. In fact, these qualities are enhanced when rooted in self-respect and intention. True power allows you to help others without losing yourself, to give without depleting your energy, and to support without being manipulated. When you operate from a position of strength, your kindness becomes a choice, not an obligation, and it is received with genuine appreciation rather than entitlement. Finally, personal power requires resilience. Life will challenge you, and there will be times when others push your boundaries, question your choices, or attempt to undermine your confidence. Resilience is the ability to maintain your center, recover from setbacks, and continue moving forward with clarity and determination. It is built through self-awareness, reflection, and consistent practice of the principles of personal power. Each challenge you overcome strengthens your confidence, sharpens your judgment, and deepens your understanding of your inner strength. Understanding your personal power is the foundation for all the changes that follow. It is the lens through which you will evaluate your relationships, your work, and your choices. Without this understanding, it is easy to slip back into old patterns of people-pleasing, overextending yourself, or seeking approval from others. With this understanding, you gain the clarity, confidence, and courage needed to take control of your life, assert your boundaries, and pursue your goals with intention. Recognizing your personal power is not a one-time event. It is a continuous process of growth, self-discovery, and action. Each day you have the opportunity to exercise your power in small ways by saying no when necessary, honoring your needs, making intentional choices, and standing firm in your values. As you do so, you will find that your life begins to shift. People will respond to your energy differently. Opportunities will open up that were previously blocked. And most importantly, you will feel a sense of ownership, confidence, and fulfillment that comes from knowing you are living in alignment with your true self. Personal power is not something to be taken from others. It is something to be claimed from within. When you understand and embrace it, you will no longer be swayed by the expectations of others. You will no longer be trapped by fear, and you will no longer allow kindness to become a weakness. Your power is the foundation for a life of authenticity, freedom, and fulfillment. And once you claim it, you will begin to live the life you were always capable of creating. Chapter 3. Breaking free from approval addiction. Approval is a powerful force in our lives. From the time we are children, we are conditioned to seek validation from parents, teachers, peers, and society. A smile, a compliment, or a pat on the back becomes a measure of our worth. This conditioning is natural, and it serves a purpose when we are growing up. However, many adults continue to carry this need for approval into their professional lives, relationships, and everyday decisions. Seeking constant approval becomes a subtle addiction, an invisible chain that keeps you trapped, prevents you from asserting yourself, and stops you from living authentically. Approval addiction often masquerades as kindness or cooperation. It may seem harmless to seek validation from others, but when your decisions are driven by a desire to please, you are giving away your personal power. Every time you compromise your values, overextend yourself, or say yes when you mean no, you are prioritizing someone else's opinion above your own judgment. Over time, this pattern can erode your confidence, distort your sense of self, and leave you exhausted, anxious, and dependent on external approval for your happiness. One of the first steps in breaking free from approval addiction is recognizing the signs. People who struggle with this pattern often experience a persistent fear of rejection or criticism. They may constantly worry about what others think of them, overanalyze interactions, or seek reassurance for even minor decisions. They may overcompensate by being excessively accommodating, agreeing with others even when they disagree, or avoiding conflict at all costs. Another common sign is difficulty making decisions independently. When approval is the guiding factor in every choice, even simple decisions, what to wear, what to say, or how to spend your time, become complicated and stressful. Approval addiction also manifests in social and professional relationships. Those who are addicted to validation often overcommit, take on tasks they do not have time for, or go beyond what is reasonable to gain favor. They may find themselves in one-sided relationships where their effort is not reciprocated. Colleagues, friends, or family members may unconsciously or sometimes deliberately exploit this need for approval. Over time, the individual begins to internalize the belief that their worth is determined by the opinions of others rather than by their own values and achievements. The impact of approval addiction goes beyond social and emotional stress. It also affects your decision-making and personal growth. When every choice is influenced by the anticipated judgment of others, you are less likely to take risks, pursue new opportunities, or assert your true desires. You may avoid expressing your opinions, exploring new paths, or embracing challenges out of fear that you will be judged or rejected. This fear keeps you in a state of stagnation, preventing you from fully stepping into your power and living a life that is authentic and fulfilling. Breaking free from approval addiction requires a shift in mindset, a conscious decision to prioritize your own values, judgment, and well-being over external validation. This begins with self-awareness. You must first recognize the patterns in your behavior that are driven by the need for approval. Reflect on your motivations. Are you acting out of genuine choice, or are you trying to gain favor or avoid disapproval? Are your relationships reciprocal, or do they require you to constantly sacrifice your needs for the comfort of others? Honest reflection is the first step toward reclaiming your autonomy. Once you have identified these patterns, the next step is to redefine your sense of self-worth. Your value is not determined by the approval of others. It comes from within, from your integrity, your actions, and your commitment to living authentically. Begin by acknowledging your achievements, strengths, and qualities without seeking external validation. Celebrate your progress, however small, and allow yourself to feel proud of who you are, independent of others' opinions. Over time, this internal validation becomes stronger and more reliable than any praise or criticism you might receive. Learning to set boundaries is another essential component of overcoming approval addiction. Boundaries allow you to define what is acceptable and what is not, protecting your energy and preserving your autonomy. When you set clear boundaries, you communicate that your needs and values matter, and that you will not compromise yourself simply to gain approval. Boundaries are not a rejection of others. They are a declaration of self-respect. By consistently enforcing your boundaries, you gradually retrain both yourself and those around you to respect your choices. Saying no is an act of liberation for those addicted to approval. For individuals accustomed to constantly seeking validation, saying no can feel uncomfortable, even frightening. It may trigger guilt, fear of conflict, or anxiety about being disliked. But each time you say no when it aligns with your values, you strengthen your autonomy and your personal power. It is a practice of self-respect that gradually diminishes the hold of approval addiction. Remember, saying no is not a rejection of others. It is an affirmation of yourself. Another crucial practice is cultivating self-reliance in decision-making. Begin by making small, independent choices without seeking input from others. It could be as simple as choosing a new hobby, altering your routine, or expressing an opinion that differs from those around you. Each act of independent decision-making strengthens your confidence and reinforces the understanding that your judgment is valid. As you build this confidence, you will find it easier to make larger, more impactful decisions without being swayed by external approval. Mindfulness and reflection are also powerful tools in breaking free from approval addiction. Pay attention to the thoughts and emotions that arise when you seek validation. Notice the triggers, perhaps a text message from a colleague, a comment from a friend, or a social media post. Observe without judgment. Ask yourself, am I seeking approval because I want to, or because I feel obligated? This practice of conscious observation allows you to identify patterns and make intentional choices rather than reacting automatically to the need for validation. Overcoming approval addiction also involves surrounding yourself with supportive, understanding individuals. Seek relationships that honor your boundaries, respect your autonomy, and appreciate you for who you are, not just what you do. Healthy relationships reinforce the idea that your value is intrinsic, not dependent on pleasing others. Over time, you will naturally distance yourself from relationships that feed your approval-seeking tendencies, creating a social environment that supports your personal growth and empowerment. It is important to understand that breaking free from approval addiction is a gradual process. Old habits and thought patterns are deeply ingrained and may resurface, especially in high-pressure situations or when dealing with influential figures. When this happens, do not view it as failure. Instead, treat it as an opportunity for learning and reinforcement. Each moment of self-awareness, each choice to honor your own judgment, and each act of boundary setting strengthens your independence and reduces the hold of approval addiction. A powerful strategy is to cultivate internal affirmation. Develop a personal mantra or a set of affirmations that reinforce your value and autonomy. Statements like, "My worth is inherent and does not depend on others' approval," or "I make choices based on my values, not on the expectations of others," serve as constant reminders of your growing independence. Repeat them regularly, especially in moments of doubt or anxiety, to strengthen your internal validation system. Breaking free from approval addiction also involves embracing the discomfort that comes with it. You may initially feel fear, guilt, or anxiety when refusing requests, expressing your true opinions, or prioritizing your needs. This discomfort is natural. It signals that you are stepping outside of old patterns and reclaiming your power. With practice, these feelings diminish, and you begin to experience a sense of freedom and authenticity that far surpasses the fleeting satisfaction of external approval. Finally, remember that breaking free from approval addiction is not about becoming selfish, indifferent, or unkind. It is about reclaiming your autonomy so that your kindness and generosity can be offered freely without the hidden cost of self-sacrifice. When your actions are chosen rather than compelled by a need for validation, they become more authentic, impactful, and fulfilling. True empowerment comes from the ability to care for others while also caring for yourself, a balance that can only be achieved when you release the need for constant approval. Approval addiction is a silent barrier to your personal growth and fulfillment. It keeps you trapped in patterns of overgiving, compromise, and dependence on others' opinions. By developing self-awareness, cultivating internal validation, setting boundaries, practicing independent decision-making, and embracing discomfort, you gradually break free from this invisible chain. As you do, you reclaim your personal power, your confidence, and your ability to live authentically. The life you create becomes one guided by your values, choices, and intentions, rather than by the approval or judgment of others. Breaking free from approval addiction is not a destination. It is a journey. Each step you take, each boundary you set, and each decision you make in alignment with your values brings you closer to a life of freedom, confidence, and fulfillment. The path may be challenging at times, but the rewards are profound. Once you release the need for external validation, you discover a sense of inner strength, clarity, and purpose that is unshakable. You become the master of your life, free to act, choose, and live according to your own truth. Chapter 4. The Art of Saying No Without Guilt. Saying no is one of the simplest yet most powerful tools you have to reclaim your life, your energy, and your personal power. Yet for many people, saying no is almost impossible. It triggers anxiety, guilt, fear of conflict, and even self-doubt. Saying no feels uncomfortable because, for much of our lives, we have been conditioned to believe that saying yes is the right thing to do. Saying no, on the other hand, is often seen as rude, selfish, or unkind. This conditioning is so strong that even when we recognize that saying yes will harm our well-being or distract us from our goals, we struggle to assert ourselves. The first step in mastering the art of saying no is understanding why it is essential. Saying no is not a rejection of others. It is an affirmation of yourself. It communicates that your time, energy, and priorities matter. When you say yes to everything and everyone, you dilute your effectiveness and sacrifice your own goals and well-being. By learning to say no, you protect your energy, preserve your mental and emotional health, and create space for the opportunities and relationships that truly align with your values. Many people fear saying no because they are concerned about the reactions of others. They worry that saying no will cause disappointment, anger, or rejection. While these concerns are natural, they are often exaggerated in our minds. Most people respect boundaries when they are communicated clearly and respectfully. In fact, failing to say no often leads to resentment, frustration, and exhaustion, emotions that are far more damaging to relationships than a politely stated refusal. Learning to say no effectively is about balancing assertiveness with respect, ensuring that your needs are honored without unnecessarily harming others. One key strategy for saying no is to be clear and direct. Ambiguity creates confusion and invites pushback. Instead of providing long, elaborate excuses or over-explaining your decision, keep your response simple and firm. For example, you might say, "I'm unable to take this on at the moment," or "I have to decline because it conflicts with my priorities." A clear, concise no communicates your boundary without leaving room for negotiation or guilt. Over time, this clarity trains both yourself and others to respect your limits. Another important aspect of saying no is understanding that you do not owe anyone an elaborate explanation. You are allowed to say no without justification, guilt, or apology. Often, people feel compelled to explain their reasons in detail, fearing that a simple no will be perceived as rude. In reality, a straightforward response is sufficient. You can simply state, "No, I can't," or "No, thank you," without feeling the need to defend yourself. Your time and energy are valuable, and protecting them does not require approval or validation from others. It is also helpful to practice saying no in low-stakes situations before applying it to more significant challenges. Start by declining minor requests, such as attending an event you are not interested in or helping with a task that is not essential. This practice allows you to become comfortable with the feeling of saying no, develop confidence in your boundaries, and observe that the consequences of a polite refusal are rarely as severe as you might fear. Gradually, you can apply these skills to more critical situations, such as declining additional work responsibilities, asserting boundaries in personal relationships, or refusing requests that compromise your values. Many people struggle to say no because they conflate it with being unkind or selfish. To overcome this mindset, it is essential to redefine what kindness truly means. True kindness is not about sacrificing your well-being to please others. It is about acting with integrity, empathy, and respect while maintaining your own boundaries. By saying no when necessary, you are not being unkind. You are being honest, responsible, and self-respecting. In fact, your ability to help others effectively often improves when you manage your energy wisely, because you are able to give from a place of strength rather than depletion. Another useful strategy is to anticipate objections and prepare your response. People may push back when you say no, either because they are used to your compliance or because they feel entitled to your time and energy. When this happens, it is important to remain firm without becoming defensive. You can acknowledge their feelings while maintaining your boundary. For example, you might say, "I understand that this is important to you, but I cannot commit to it at this time." This approach shows empathy and respect while reinforcing your limits, and it reduces the likelihood of guilt or conflict. Learning to say no also involves managing internal guilt. For many people, the biggest obstacle to saying no is not external pressure, but the internalized belief that refusing a request is wrong. This belief often stems from childhood conditioning, cultural norms, or experiences where saying no was punished or criticized. To overcome this, it is helpful to remind yourself that your needs, priorities, and well-being are just as important as anyone else's. Saying no is an act of self-respect, not selfishness, and it is necessary for maintaining balance, energy, and clarity in your life. A powerful mental shift is to view saying no as an opportunity rather than a limitation. Each no you say frees up your time, energy, and focus for the things that truly matter: your goals, your values, and your personal growth. By saying no to obligations that do not align with your priorities, you create space to say yes to opportunities, relationships, and experiences that genuinely enrich your life. This perspective transforms the act of refusing from a negative experience into a positive, empowering choice. Another helpful technique is to practice delayed responses. If a request catches you off guard or triggers anxiety, it is perfectly acceptable to take time before answering. You can respond with, "Let me check my schedule and get back to you," or "I need to think about this before I commit." This pause allows you to consider your priorities, evaluate whether the request aligns with your values, and respond without the pressure of immediate compliance. Over time, this practice strengthens your confidence in asserting boundaries and reduces impulsive yes responses driven by guilt or fear. It is also important to recognize the patterns and relationships that encourage approval-seeking behavior. Some people habitually exploit your generosity or expect automatic compliance. While it may feel uncomfortable at first, saying no to these individuals reinforces your boundaries and gradually reshapes the dynamics of the relationship. You will notice that those who genuinely respect you adjust to your limits, while those who do not may drift away. This natural filtering process is essential for creating an environment that honors your needs, values, and personal power. Mindfulness and reflection can further support the art of saying no. Observe the thoughts and emotions that arise when you are asked to do something you do not want to do. Notice any guilt, fear, or anxiety, and examine where these feelings come from. Are they rooted in a desire to please, fear of conflict, or a belief that your needs are less important than others? By bringing awareness to these patterns, you can make conscious choices rather than reacting automatically out of habit or obligation. Finally, remember that saying no is a practice, not a single act. The more you exercise this skill, the more comfortable and confident you will become. Each no you assert reinforces your boundaries, strengthens your personal power, and builds a sense of autonomy. Over time, saying no becomes a natural part of your communication, allowing you to interact with others from a place of clarity, authenticity, and respect. Mastering the art of saying no without guilt is a transformative step toward reclaiming your life. It allows you to protect your energy, honor your priorities, and live authentically. It is an essential tool for anyone who has struggled with people-pleasing, approval addiction, or overcommitment. By learning to say no with clarity, confidence, and respect, you create a foundation for healthier relationships, greater personal power, and a life guided by intention rather than obligation. Saying no is not a rejection of others. It is an embrace of yourself. Each time you set a boundary, you teach the world how to treat you, and more importantly, how to respect your energy and your choices. The freedom, confidence, and clarity that come from mastering this skill are profound. Once you internalize the art of saying no, you will discover a new level of autonomy, focus, and empowerment that transforms every aspect of your life. Chapter 5. Stop people-pleasing and start self-respecting. People-pleasing is one of the most subtle yet destructive habits that can hold you back in life. At first, it may appear harmless or even virtuous. After all, helping others, being agreeable, and going the extra mile to make people happy seems like a positive trait. Yet, when people-pleasing becomes a default behavior, it begins to undermine your self-respect, sap your energy, and limit your personal growth. It keeps you trapped in patterns where your worth is measured by the satisfaction of others rather than your own values, desires, and principles. The first step in overcoming people-pleasing is recognizing the behavior. People-pleasers often put the needs of others before their own, even when it comes at a personal cost. They agree to requests they don't want to fulfill, avoid expressing their true opinions, and suppress their emotions to maintain harmony. They fear conflict, rejection, or disapproval so intensely that they prioritize external validation above their own comfort and well-being. While this pattern may have served a purpose in childhood or certain social environments, it is a habit that can no longer guide you if you want to live authentically and with self-respect. The consequences of people-pleasing are widespread. Emotionally, people-pleasers often experience resentment, frustration, and exhaustion. When you consistently put others first, you neglect your own needs, creating a buildup of dissatisfaction that may not be obvious at first. Over time, this emotional drain can lead to stress, anxiety, and even depression. Socially, people-pleasers may find themselves surrounded by individuals who take advantage of their generosity, exploit their willingness to comply, or expect them to accommodate constantly. This imbalance can damage relationships and prevent the development of authentic connections based on mutual respect. Self-respect is the antidote to people-pleasing. It is the internal standard by which you judge your own worth and guide your decisions. Self-respect means valuing yourself enough to honor your needs, beliefs, and priorities without apology. It is the recognition that your time, energy, and boundaries matter just as much as anyone else's. When you cultivate self-respect, you no longer feel compelled to say yes to every request or conform to everyone's expectations. Instead, you act intentionally, choosing when and how to engage with others in ways that align with your values and preserve your well-being. Breaking the people-pleasing habit begins with self-awareness. You must honestly assess your patterns and motivations. Ask yourself, why am I saying yes? Is it because I genuinely want to, or because I fear disappointment or rejection? Am I suppressing my true feelings to keep others happy? Do I feel drained or resentful after helping someone? These questions help uncover the underlying motivations that drive people-pleasing which often stem from fear, insecurity, or a need for approval. Once you become aware of your behavior, the next step is to set boundaries. Boundaries are not arbitrary rules. They are declarations of self-respect. They define what is acceptable in your life and communicate your needs to others. Establishing boundaries can be challenging at first, especially if people are accustomed to your compliance. However, consistency is key. By clearly articulating what you will and will not tolerate, you protect your energy and reinforce your self-worth. Boundaries can take many forms: declining requests, limiting time spent with draining individuals, or prioritizing personal goals over external demands. Whatever the form, boundaries are essential for transitioning from people-pleasing to self-respecting behavior. Another important strategy is learning to express your opinions honestly. People-pleasers often avoid sharing their true thoughts for fear of offending or upsetting others. This suppression diminishes personal power and creates a disconnection between your inner self and outward behavior. By practicing assertive communication, you convey your ideas and feelings clearly, respectfully, and confidently. Assertiveness is not aggression. It is the ability to express yourself authentically while honoring the perspectives of others. Each time you express your opinion, you reinforce your sense of self and build self-respect. A practical exercise to combat people-pleasing is to start small. Begin by identifying minor situations where you can assert yourself without feeling overwhelmed. It could be declining a casual request, voicing a preference in a group setting, or politely disagreeing with someone. Over time, these small acts of self-respect strengthen your confidence and prepare you for larger challenges, such as setting firm boundaries with colleagues, family members, or long-term friends. The key is consistency and practice. Each act reinforces the habit of honoring your own needs. Self-reflection is another crucial tool. Regularly evaluate your decisions, actions, and interactions. Are you living in alignment with your values, or are you being swayed by the desire to please? Journaling can be an effective method, allowing you to track patterns, recognize triggers, and celebrate successes when you prioritize self-respect over compliance. By reflecting on your behavior, you gain clarity, identify areas for growth, and reinforce your commitment to living authentically. It is also important to confront the fear associated with people-pleasing. Fear of conflict, rejection, or disapproval is a significant barrier to self-respect. However, avoiding discomfort comes at a higher cost than facing it. Conflict, when handled appropriately, can lead to clearer boundaries, mutual understanding, and stronger relationships. Rejection or criticism does not diminish your worth. It simply reflects a difference of opinion or expectation. By reframing fear as a signal for growth, you empower yourself to take courageous action, assert your needs, and prioritize self-respect over temporary comfort. Cultivating self-respect also involves embracing your imperfections. People-pleasers often strive for perfection to gain approval, fearing that flaws or mistakes will lead to rejection. This pursuit of perfection is exhausting and unrealistic. Accepting yourself, including your limitations and mistakes, fosters resilience and authenticity. When you no longer base your worth on pleasing others or being flawless, you gain freedom to act confidently, set boundaries, and pursue your goals without constant self-judgment. Supportive relationships play a critical role in reinforcing self-respect. Surround yourself with individuals who honor your boundaries, appreciate your authenticity, and encourage your personal growth. These relationships validate your self-worth and create an environment where people-pleasing is unnecessary. Conversely, it is equally important to recognize relationships that undermine your autonomy and maintain them at a distance or with clear boundaries. Choosing your social environment wisely ensures that your energy is invested in connections that reinforce self-respect rather than drain it. Another strategy to strengthen self-respect is affirming your value internally. Repeating positive affirmations, reflecting on your achievements, and acknowledging your growth are simple yet powerful tools. Phrases such as, "I honor my needs," "My worth is not defined by pleasing others," or "I have the right to prioritize myself," reinforce your commitment to self-respect. Internal validation gradually replaces the need for external approval, allowing you to act from a place of confidence rather than fear. People-pleasing is not a fixed trait. It is a learned behavior that can be unlearned with conscious effort. By consistently practicing boundary setting, assertive communication, self-reflection, and internal validation, you gradually shift your behavior towards self-respecting choices. This process requires patience, persistence, and self-compassion. There will be moments when old habits resurface, when guilt creeps in, or when fear tempts you to comply. When this happens, recognize it as a natural part of growth, learn from it, and reaffirm your commitment to self-respect. Over time, stopping people-pleasing transforms your life. You will notice increased energy, reduced stress, and greater clarity in decision-making. Relationships improve because interactions are based on mutual respect rather than obligation. Opportunities that align with your values naturally present themselves, while distractions and unnecessary demands fade away. Most importantly, you develop a profound sense of self-worth that is independent of the opinions or approval of others. Ultimately, stopping people-pleasing is about reclaiming your life. It is about shifting from a reactive existence, driven by fear and obligation, to a proactive one, guided by values, priorities, and self-respect. It allows you to act intentionally, honor your needs, and live authentically. By prioritizing self-respect over the desire to please, you create a foundation of strength, confidence, and empowerment that touches every aspect of your life. Self-respect is not selfish, it is necessary. When you honor yourself, you give yourself the permission to live fully, love authentically, and engage meaningfully. It is the key to breaking free from the cycle of overgiving, compromise, and emotional exhaustion. Each step you take to stop people-pleasing and assert your boundaries strengthens your personal power, improves your relationships, and brings you closer to living a life that is truly your own. The journey from people-pleasing to self-respect is ongoing, but it is also profoundly liberating. As you develop this skill, you will find that your kindness becomes a choice rather than an obligation. Your generosity becomes more sustainable, and your interactions more authentic. By committing to self-respect, you create a life in which your energy, time, and well-being are honored, and in doing so, you finally take control of your life. Chapter 6: Reclaiming your time and energy. Time and energy are the most valuable resources you have, yet they are often treated as if they are unlimited. Many people give them away freely, prioritizing the needs, demands, and expectations of others over their own well-being. We live in a culture that often glorifies busyness, overcommitment, and self-sacrifice, equating productivity with worth and compliance with kindness. Yet, when you consistently allow others to dictate how you spend your time and drain your energy, you compromise your health, your goals, and your personal power. Reclaiming your time and energy is not just about efficiency, it is about reclaiming your life. The first step in this process is awareness. Begin by observing how you currently spend your time and energy. Keep a log for a week or two, noting not only your activities, but also how each one makes you feel. Are you drained after certain interactions? Do you feel anxious, resentful, or overextended after agreeing to commitments? Are there recurring patterns where you prioritize others at your expense? Awareness is crucial because you cannot manage what you do not see. Once you identify where your energy is being consumed unnecessarily, you can begin to make intentional changes. Many people give away their energy out of habit, obligation, or fear of conflict. You may say yes automatically, fearing that refusal will hurt someone's feelings or result in disapproval. You may take on tasks because no one else will, even though they overextend you. Or you may invest emotional energy in people who do not reciprocate, constantly providing support while receiving little in return. Over time, these patterns lead to emotional exhaustion, stress, and a feeling of being trapped in life rather than empowered to shape it. Recognizing these dynamics is the first step toward taking control. Setting clear boundaries is essential to reclaiming your time and energy. Boundaries define what is acceptable and unacceptable in how others treat you and interact with you. They communicate that your needs, priorities, and limits matter. Boundaries can take many forms: declining unnecessary obligations, limiting time spent on draining relationships, delegating tasks, or saying no to projects that do not align with your goals. By establishing boundaries consistently, you protect your energy and send a clear message to yourself and others that your time is valuable. Prioritization is another critical aspect. Many people treat all demands on their time as equally important, leading to overcommitment and stress. To reclaim your time, learn to distinguish between urgent, important, and optional tasks. Focus on activities that align with your long-term goals, values, and well-being. Delegate or decline tasks that do not serve your priorities. When you invest your time intentionally, rather than reactively, you create space for growth, creativity, and fulfillment. Emotional energy is just as important as time. Interactions, relationships, and environments can either energize or drain you. Pay attention to the people and situations that leave you feeling depleted. While it may not be realistic to eliminate all negative influences, you can control the extent of your engagement. Limit exposure to toxic relationships, minimize unnecessary conflicts, and spend more time with individuals who support, inspire, and uplift you. By managing emotional energy consciously, you preserve your capacity to act, create, and engage with life fully. One practical technique for reclaiming time is learning to say no without guilt, a topic explored in depth in previous chapters. Every no you assert creates space for activities and commitments that truly matter. Saying no is not about rejection, it is about prioritization. It is a conscious choice to invest your time where it will have the greatest impact, rather than spreading yourself too thin for the sake of pleasing others or maintaining appearances. Each no you assert is an act of self-respect and a reinforcement of your personal power. Time management skills also play a crucial role. Simple practices such as creating daily priorities, scheduling focused blocks of time, and avoiding multitasking can dramatically improve efficiency and reduce wasted energy. Multitasking, while often praised, actually diminishes productivity and increases mental fatigue. By focusing on one task at a time, you can achieve higher quality results in less time, freeing energy for the activities and relationships that matter most. Energy management is equally important. Just as time is finite, so too is your physical and emotional energy. Lack of sleep, poor nutrition, and neglecting self-care all contribute to diminished capacity. Prioritize rest, movement, and nourishing habits as essential components of your strategy to reclaim energy. Regular breaks, physical activity, and practices such as meditation or mindfulness help maintain mental clarity and emotional balance. Reclaiming energy is not about doing more. it is about sustaining your capacity to act effectively and intentionally. Another strategy is evaluating commitments and obligations critically. Many people overcommit because they feel compelled to say yes, often to avoid conflict or maintain appearances. Examine your schedule and ask, does this commitment align with my values, goals, or well-being? Does it genuinely contribute to my life, or is it a habit, obligation, or social expectation? By distinguishing between meaningful and unnecessary commitments, you can reduce overwhelm and focus on what truly matters. Digital distractions are another significant drain on time and energy. Social media, constant notifications, and endless digital demands fragment attention and consume mental resources. Set boundaries for technology use. Schedule specific times to check emails or social media. Turn off notifications during focused work and create periods of digital silence. By managing digital input consciously, you preserve both time and mental energy, allowing you to engage fully with tasks, relationships, and personal growth. Emotional energy is also tied to how you manage interpersonal dynamics. Some relationships require disproportionate effort, leaving you drained without reciprocity. Evaluate these relationships critically. You may need to limit interaction, delegate responsibilities, or establish firmer boundaries to prevent emotional depletion. Surround yourself with individuals who energize, support, and respect you, while reducing the influence of those who consistently drain your energy. This selective approach ensures that your time and energy are invested in meaningful and sustaining connections. Reclaiming time and energy also involves conscious decision-making. Every choice, from the smallest daily task to major life decisions, is an opportunity to assert control over your life. Consider the consequences of each decision on your well-being, priorities, and goals. Ask yourself, will this activity or commitment contribute to my growth, health, or happiness, or will it deplete my energy and distract me from what truly matters? By making intentional choices, you take ownership of your life rather than being swept along by external demands. Practicing gratitude and reflection enhances this process. Regularly reflect on how you spend your time and energy, and acknowledge areas where you have successfully reclaimed control. Celebrate small victories, such as saying no to a request that drains you, delegating a task, or dedicating time to personal growth. Gratitude reinforces your commitment to intentional living, reminding you that reclaiming your resources is not selfish but necessary for a balanced and fulfilling life. It is also crucial to adopt a long-term perspective. Reclaiming time and energy is not a one-time task, but an ongoing practice. Life will continuously present new demands, challenges, and opportunities for overcommitment. By developing habits of awareness, boundary setting, and intentional action, you build a sustainable framework for managing your time and energy over the long term. Each day becomes an opportunity to reinforce these habits, gradually creating a life that prioritizes your well-being and aligns with your goals. Ultimately, reclaiming your time and energy is about reclaiming yourself. It is about recognizing that your life is yours to live intentionally, not a series of obligations, distractions, or demands imposed by others. When you prioritize your own energy, set boundaries, and invest time in meaningful activities and relationships, you create the conditions for success, fulfillment, and personal growth. By consciously choosing how to spend your resources, you take control of your life, strengthen your personal power, and ensure that your kindness and generosity are sustainable rather than draining. Reclaiming your time and energy is transformative. It allows you to act from a place of intention rather than obligation. Focus on goals that truly matter and engage in relationships that are mutually supportive. It reduces stress, increases clarity, and fosters a sense of autonomy and empowerment. By valuing your time and energy as precious resources, you establish a foundation for a life that is productive, fulfilling, and aligned with your true self. Remember, time and energy are finite. Every moment spent overcommitted, people-pleasing, or drained by unnecessary obligations is a moment lost. By reclaiming these resources, you reclaim your power, your clarity, and your ability to live intentionally. Each decision, boundary, and act of self-care strengthens your autonomy and reinforces the principle that your life, time, and energy are yours to protect and invest wisely. This is the path to true freedom, fulfillment, and personal empowerment. Chapter 7. Speaking your truth with confidence. Speaking your truth is one of the most powerful ways to reclaim your life, assert your personal power, and live authentically. Yet for many people, it is also one of the most difficult things to do. From a young age, we are taught to conform, to avoid conflict, and to prioritize the comfort and opinions of others over our own. Over time, this conditioning can lead to self-censorship, fear of judgment, and difficulty expressing what we truly feel or believe. Speaking your truth is not about confrontation or aggression. It is about expressing yourself honestly, respectfully, and confidently, so that your values, needs, and boundaries are clear to both yourself and the world. The first step in speaking your truth is understanding what it actually means. Speaking your truth does not mean saying whatever comes to mind without consideration. It is not about venting frustrations, blaming others, or asserting dominance. True expression of your truth is rooted in authenticity, clarity, and integrity. It is about conveying your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs in a way that is respectful to yourself and others while remaining firm in your convictions. When done correctly, speaking your truth strengthens relationships, reduces resentment, and reinforces your sense of self-worth. Fear is often the primary barrier to speaking your truth. Fear of conflict, fear of rejection, fear of judgment. These emotions can keep us silent for years. This fear is natural because it triggers the primitive survival instincts we inherited as humans, the desire to belong, to be accepted, and to avoid confrontation. The problem arises when fear overrides our need to express ourselves, leading to a life of compliance and quiet resentment. Overcoming this fear requires awareness, courage, and practice. Recognizing the cost of remaining silent is the first motivation to act. When you do not speak your truth, you pay a high price. Suppression of your thoughts and feelings can lead to internal stress, anxiety, and even depression. Relationships may suffer because unexpressed needs lead to misunderstandings, passive-aggressive behaviors, and resentment. Over time, the inability to speak your truth erodes your self-confidence and your sense of personal power. By contrast, expressing yourself authentically fosters emotional clarity, builds self-respect, and encourages honesty in the people around you. A practical first step is self-reflection. Before you can communicate your truth effectively, you must understand it clearly. Ask yourself, what do I truly believe? What do I feel about this situation? What do I need, want, or expect? Taking time to reflect helps you articulate your thoughts with clarity and prevents emotional overwhelm from clouding your communication. Journaling, meditation, or simply quiet contemplation can provide the space to sort through your feelings and prepare for authentic expression. Confidence is the foundation of speaking your truth. Confidence comes from understanding your worth, trusting your judgment, and recognizing that your thoughts and feelings are valid. To cultivate confidence, start by acknowledging your achievements, qualities, and past experiences where expressing yourself led to positive outcomes. Remind yourself that your voice matters and that your perspective is worthy of being heard. Confidence is not arrogance. It is the quiet assurance that you have the right to be seen and heard as you truly are. Timing and tone are critical components of effective communication. Speaking your truth does not require immediacy or aggression. Choose a moment when you and the other person can engage without heightened emotions. Maintain a calm, respectful tone that conveys assertiveness rather than hostility. Use I statements to express your feelings without blaming or attacking, such as, "I feel overwhelmed when I am expected to take on additional work," instead of, "You always overload me." This approach fosters understanding and reduces defensiveness, making it more likely that your truth will be received openly. Preparation can also strengthen your ability to speak your truth. Anticipate potential questions, objections, or resistance, and plan how to respond while maintaining clarity and composure. Practice articulating your thoughts aloud or with a trusted friend. This rehearsal builds confidence, reduces anxiety, and helps you maintain control of your message, even in challenging situations. The goal is not to create a script, but to familiarize yourself with expressing your truth calmly and effectively. Body language plays a subtle yet significant role in communicating confidence. Maintain eye contact. Stand or sit with an open posture, and avoid defensive gestures like crossing arms or fidgeting. Non-verbal cues reinforce the sincerity and strength of your words. When your body communicates confidence, your message is more compelling, and you are more likely to be taken seriously. Another essential element is active listening. Speaking your truth is not just about expressing your own perspective. It is also about engaging with others respectfully. Listen attentively to their responses, acknowledge their viewpoints, and respond thoughtfully. Active listening fosters mutual respect and reduces conflict, allowing your truth to be heard without escalating tension. This balanced approach strengthens both your communication skills and your relationships. It is also important to manage expectations. Not everyone will respond positively to your truth. Some people may react with resistance, defensiveness, or criticism. This does not mean you are wrong or that your truth is invalid. Speaking your truth is an act of self-respect, not an attempt to control others' reactions. Over time, consistent, respectful expression of your truth encourages honesty and integrity in your interactions, even if initial responses are challenging. Boundaries are closely tied to speaking your truth. When you communicate honestly about your needs, limits, and expectations, you are simultaneously reinforcing boundaries that protect your time, energy, and well-being. Boundaries create a framework for respectful interactions and reduce the likelihood of being manipulated or overextended. Speaking your truth and setting boundaries are complementary acts of self-respect that strengthen personal power and foster healthier relationships. A practical exercise for building this skill is to start small. Choose a low-stakes situation where you feel safe to express your opinion or preference. It could be as simple as voicing your choice of a restaurant, stating a preference in a meeting, or expressing how a friend's comment made you feel. Gradually, you can work up to more significant issues, such as addressing recurring conflicts, asserting professional priorities, or confronting behaviors that violate your boundaries. Incremental practice builds confidence and reduces the fear associated with speaking your truth. Mindfulness can enhance your ability to express yourself authentically. Observe the thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations that arise when you consider speaking your truth. Notice any fear, tension, or self-doubt, and use breath, reflection, or grounding techniques to manage these responses. Mindfulness allows you to respond deliberately rather than reactively, ensuring that your truth is communicated calmly, confidently, and intentionally. Another key element is embracing imperfection. Speaking your truth does not require flawless articulation or perfect timing. What matters is honesty, clarity, and intention. Allow yourself to be human in your communication, acknowledging mistakes, refining your approach, and learning from each experience. Each attempt strengthens your ability to express yourself authentically and reinforces the understanding that your voice is valuable, regardless of how perfectly it is delivered. Over time, consistently speaking your truth transforms both your inner and outer world. Internally, you develop greater self-confidence, emotional clarity, and resilience. You no longer carry the weight of unspoken thoughts or suppressed feelings. Externally, your relationships improve because interactions are based on honesty and mutual respect rather than assumption or passive compliance. You become a model of integrity, inspiring others to communicate openly and fostering environments where authenticity is valued. Ultimately, speaking your truth with confidence is an act of empowerment. It is a declaration that your thoughts, feelings, and needs are valid, and that you are committed to living authentically. When you express yourself honestly, you reclaim personal power, reduce internal tension, and strengthen the foundation for healthy, fulfilling relationships. Speaking your truth is not always easy, but it is essential for living a life of integrity, self-respect, and genuine fulfillment. By committing to this practice, you no longer allow fear, guilt, or external expectations to dictate your actions. You assert yourself with clarity and calm, honor your boundaries, and engage with the world from a place of authenticity and confidence. Each act of speaking your truth reinforces your personal power, deepens your self-respect, and ensures that your life is guided by intention rather than obligation. Speaking your truth is a journey, not a one-time event. Every honest conversation, boundary assertion, and respectful expression of your feelings strengthens your capacity to live authentically. With practice, patience, and self-compassion, you will develop the confidence to express yourself clearly in any situation, creating a life that is aligned with your values, empowered by self-respect, and rich with authentic connection. Chapter 8. Mastering Emotional Boundaries. Emotional boundaries are the invisible lines that protect your inner world, your feelings, thoughts, and energy from being overwhelmed, manipulated, or drained by others. Unlike physical boundaries, which are often visible and easier to enforce, emotional boundaries can be subtle and harder to recognize. Yet, they are essential for maintaining self-respect, personal power, and emotional well-being. Without strong emotional boundaries, you risk absorbing the emotions, opinions, and demands of others, often at the cost of your own peace of mind and authenticity. The first step in mastering emotional boundaries is understanding their purpose. Emotional boundaries are not walls to isolate yourself from others. They are safeguards that allow you to engage with people authentically without losing yourself in their emotions, expectations, or problems. They define where your feelings end and another person's begin, ensuring that you are responsible for your own emotions, but not for controlling or absorbing the emotions of others. Mastering this distinction is key to emotional freedom. Many people struggle with emotional boundaries because they feel guilty for saying no, expressing discomfort, or asserting their needs. This often stems from patterns established in childhood, cultural conditioning, or past experiences where their feelings were dismissed or invalidated. As a result, they unconsciously prioritize others' emotions over their own, absorbing guilt, stress, or anxiety from people around them. While empathy is a valuable trait, without boundaries it can become a source of exhaustion, resentment, and vulnerability to manipulation. Recognizing the signs of weak emotional boundaries is critical. Common indicators include taking responsibility for other people's feelings, feeling drained after interacting with certain individuals, avoiding conflict to keep others happy, or experiencing frequent guilt when asserting your needs. If you notice that your emotional state is heavily influenced by others, or if you constantly feel obligated to manage others' feelings, it is a strong signal that your boundaries need strengthening. The next step is cultivating self-awareness. Emotional boundaries begin with understanding your own feelings, triggers, and limits. Take time to notice how interactions with others affect you. Are you absorbing stress, anger, or frustration that is not yours? Do certain people consistently push your buttons or leave you feeling depleted? By identifying these patterns, you can begin to distinguish between your emotions and those of others, which is the foundation of emotional boundary mastery. One of the most effective strategies for reinforcing emotional boundaries is learning to say no emotionally. This means refusing to take on the responsibility for someone else's feelings or problems. You can listen, support, and empathize without absorbing their stress or guilt. For example, if someone expresses anger or disappointment toward you, you can acknowledge their feelings without internalizing them. I hear that you're upset. I understand how you feel, but I cannot take responsibility for your emotions. This simple distinction allows you to maintain empathy while protecting your emotional well-being. Setting clear boundaries also involves managing your energy in relationships. Evaluate which connections are supportive, balanced, and nurturing, and which are draining, manipulative, or one-sided. It is natural to prioritize relationships that respect your emotional limits while limiting exposure to those that consistently deplete your energy. This may involve reducing time spent with certain individuals, asserting limits on the topics you engage with, or creating physical distance when needed. By managing emotional energy consciously, you preserve your capacity for healthy interactions and personal growth. Another key aspect of emotional boundaries is differentiating between empathy and enmeshment. Empathy allows you to understand and connect with others' experiences without taking them on as your own. Enmeshment occurs when you merge your emotional state with someone else's, feeling responsible for their happiness, stress, or well-being. While empathy fosters connection, enmeshment leads to emotional exhaustion and loss of self. Mastering emotional boundaries means practicing empathy with detachment, supporting others without internalizing their emotions. Effective communication is crucial for maintaining emotional boundaries. Express your needs, feelings, and limits clearly and respectfully. Use assertive language, such as "I need some time to process this," or "I am not responsible for how you feel." Avoid over-apologizing or justifying your boundaries excessively, as this can signal uncertainty or guilt. Clear communication reinforces your limits while preserving respect and understanding in your interactions. Mindfulness practices support the mastery of emotional boundaries. By observing your thoughts, emotions, and reactions, you become more aware of when you are being influenced or drained by others' emotions. Techniques such as deep breathing, meditation, or grounding exercises help maintain clarity, calmness, and detachment in emotionally charged situations. Mindfulness allows you to respond consciously rather than react automatically, ensuring that your emotional boundaries are consistently honored. It is also important to cultivate internal validation. Many people with weak emotional boundaries rely on external approval or validation to regulate their emotional state. By developing self-compassion and self-affirmation practices, you reinforce the understanding that your emotions, needs, and boundaries are valid, regardless of how others respond. Phrases like "my feelings are valid" or "I am responsible for my emotions, not others' reactions," strengthen your internal resilience and reduce susceptibility to emotional manipulation. Recognizing and addressing manipulation is another vital component. People who frequently push your emotional boundaries may use guilt, anger, or passive-aggressive behavior to influence you. Learning to identify these tactics and respond assertively protects your emotional integrity. Stand firm in your boundaries, avoid justifying excessively, and maintain a calm, neutral stance. Over time, this consistency trains others to respect your emotional space. Developing emotional resilience is closely tied to boundary mastery. Life will inevitably present challenging interactions, emotional conflicts, and moments of discomfort. Emotional resilience allows you to maintain stability, recover from stress, and protect your well-being without becoming enmeshed in others' emotions. Practices such as self-care, reflection, and maintaining a balanced perspective strengthen resilience and reinforce the effectiveness of your emotional boundaries. It is also beneficial to reflect on past experiences where weak emotional boundaries caused harm. Identify situations where you absorbed undue responsibility, allowed manipulation, or neglected your needs to accommodate others' emotions. Use these reflections as learning opportunities to clarify your limits, assert your needs, and avoid repeating patterns. Awareness of past mistakes builds insight and commitment to healthier emotional practices. Self-respect is inseparable from emotional boundaries. By protecting your inner world, you communicate to yourself and others that your feelings, needs, and energy are important. Emotional boundaries enable you to engage authentically, express yourself honestly, and build relationships based on mutual respect rather than dependency, manipulation, or imbalance. They create the foundation for sustainable empathy, genuine connection, and personal empowerment. Finally, mastering emotional boundaries is an ongoing practice. Situations will arise that challenge your limits, test your patience, or provoke emotional reactions. Each time you notice an intrusion, assert your boundaries, and protect your inner space, you reinforce your emotional strength. Over time, these habits become second nature, allowing you to navigate relationships, stress, and life's challenges with clarity, confidence, and resilience. Mastering emotional boundaries transforms the way you experience life. You remain empathetic and caring without being overwhelmed. You maintain energy for your goals, priorities, and personal growth. You build relationships that honor your needs while nurturing authentic connection. Most importantly, you reclaim control over your emotions, ensuring that your inner world is governed by self-respect and intention rather than external pressures or emotional manipulation. By cultivating awareness, assertiveness, mindfulness, and resilience, you develop emotional boundaries that are firm yet flexible, protective yet empathetic. These boundaries allow you to engage fully with life, maintain your integrity, and live authentically without sacrificing your energy, well-being, or self-respect. Mastering emotional boundaries is not just a skill, it is a cornerstone of personal empowerment, freedom, and fulfillment. Chapter 9. Building assertive relationships. Healthy relationships are not just about connection. They are about respect, balance, and authenticity. Many people struggle in their personal and professional relationships because they lack assertiveness. They may avoid expressing their needs, suppress their feelings, or compromise their values to maintain harmony. Over time, this pattern leads to frustration, resentment, and a sense of being undervalued. Building assertive relationships is about creating connections where both parties are heard, respected, and empowered, and where communication is honest and constructive. The first step in building assertive relationships is understanding what assertiveness truly means. Assertiveness is the ability to express your thoughts, feelings, and needs clearly and respectfully, without aggression or passivity. It is the balance between passive behavior, avoiding conflict or suppressing your needs, and aggressive behavior, dominating, blaming, or disrespecting others. Assertive individuals communicate openly, set boundaries, and advocate for themselves while maintaining respect for the other person. This balance creates relationships that are both authentic and sustainable. Many people struggle with assertiveness because of fear of rejection, conflict, or judgment. This fear can lead to people-pleasing, passive compliance, or withdrawal. Yet, avoiding assertiveness comes at a high cost. It can create unbalanced relationships where your needs are consistently neglected, your energy is depleted, and your self-respect diminishes. Recognizing that assertiveness is not aggression, but rather an expression of self-respect and honesty, is the first step toward transforming your relationships. Building assertive relationships begins with self-awareness. You must first understand your own needs, feelings, and boundaries before communicating them to others. Reflect on what you value, what behaviors you find unacceptable, and what you need to feel respected and supported. When you are clear about your own expectations, you can engage with others from a place of authenticity rather than reaction, creating a foundation for healthy assertiveness. Boundary setting is a cornerstone of assertive relationships. Boundaries define your limits, communicate your needs, and protect your time, energy, and emotional well-being. Effective boundaries are specific, consistent, and communicated clearly. For example, you might say, "I am available to discuss work issues until 6 p.m., but after that time I need to focus on personal matters." Or, "I am happy to help, but I cannot take on this responsibility every day." Boundaries help others understand your expectations while reinforcing your self-respect and personal power. Assertive communication is equally important. This involves expressing your thoughts and feelings honestly, using clear language, and maintaining a respectful tone. One effective tool is the use of I statements, which focus on your perspective rather than blaming or criticizing the other person. For example, instead of saying, "You never listen to me," you could say, "I feel unheard when my suggestions are overlooked." This approach conveys your needs and emotions without triggering defensiveness, fostering constructive dialogue and mutual understanding. Listening is a critical, often overlooked aspect of assertive relationships. Assertiveness is not about dominating the conversation or prioritizing your needs above all else. It is about mutual respect and understanding. Active listening involves giving full attention to the other person, acknowledging their perspective, and responding thoughtfully. This practice builds trust, reduces misunderstandings, and encourages reciprocal communication, ensuring that both parties feel valued and heard. Another essential element is emotional regulation. Assertive relationships require the ability to express yourself clearly without being overwhelmed by strong emotions like anger, frustration, or fear. Practicing mindfulness, deep breathing, and reflection can help you maintain composure during difficult conversations. When you communicate from a calm, centered state, your message is more likely to be received positively, and you reinforce the pattern of assertive interaction. A key strategy for assertive relationships is learning to negotiate and compromise effectively. Assertiveness does not mean always getting your way. It means advocating for your needs while remaining open to finding mutually acceptable solutions. Negotiation requires clarity about your priorities, flexibility in approach, and a commitment to fairness. For instance, in a professional setting, you might propose a solution that addresses both your workload and a colleague's request, ensuring that both parties' needs are considered. Conflict is inevitable in any relationship, but assertiveness transforms conflict from a source of stress into an opportunity for growth. When you approach disagreements assertively, you focus on solutions rather than blame, express your needs clearly, and listen to the other person's perspective. This approach reduces resentment, strengthens mutual respect, and builds resilience in the relationship. Avoiding conflict, in contrast, often leads to passive-aggressive behaviors, unspoken dissatisfaction, and emotional withdrawal. Developing assertiveness also involves recognizing and addressing power dynamics. In some relationships, one party may attempt to dominate or manipulate the other. Assertive individuals identify these dynamics and respond in a way that maintains their boundaries and self-respect. This may involve calmly stating limits, refusing unreasonable demands, or seeking support when necessary. By asserting yourself in these situations, you prevent exploitation and create an environment where mutual respect is the norm. Self-confidence underpins assertive relationships. When you value yourself, trust your judgment, and recognize your worth, you are better equipped to express your needs and enforce boundaries. Confidence does not guarantee agreement from others, but it ensures that your voice is heard, your needs are respected, and your energy is not drained by passive compliance or fear. Confidence also models healthy behavior, encouraging those around you to communicate openly and respectfully. Another important aspect is consistency. Assertiveness is effective only when applied consistently. Inconsistent behavior, sometimes asserting your needs and other times yielding to others, creates confusion and undermines your authority in relationships. Consistency in boundary setting, communication, and emotional regulation builds credibility, trust, and stability, reinforcing the pattern of balanced, assertive interaction. It is also valuable to reflect on past relationships to identify patterns that need change. Consider instances where you felt undervalued, ignored, or overextended. Ask yourself, were these outcomes the result of passive behavior, unclear boundaries, or ineffective communication? By learning from past experiences, you can refine your approach, apply assertive principles more effectively, and cultivate relationships that honor your needs and values. Practicing assertiveness in small, low-stakes situations can build confidence for more challenging interactions. Start by expressing minor preferences, declining small requests, or articulating your opinion in a safe environment. Each successful instance reinforces your capacity for assertive communication, strengthens your self-respect, and reduces fear of negative reactions. Gradually, these skills can be applied to more significant situations, from professional negotiations to deep personal conversations. Building assertive relationships ultimately transforms the quality of your connections. You attract people who respect your boundaries, value your honesty, and engage with you in balanced, mutually supportive ways. You reduce the presence of toxic or manipulative individuals in your life, creating an environment where communication is authentic, conflicts are resolved constructively, and energy is shared equitably. Assertive relationships empower you to be fully yourself while fostering trust, respect, and collaboration. Finally, remember that assertiveness is a practice, not a destination. It requires ongoing attention, reflection, and courage. You will encounter situations where assertiveness feels uncomfortable, where fear tempts you to yield, or where others resist your boundaries. Each experience is an opportunity to strengthen your skills, reinforce your values, and cultivate healthier relationships. Over time, consistent practice leads to a natural, confident, and authentic approach to interacting with the world. In conclusion, building assertive relationships is about balancing self-respect with empathy, honesty with respect, and confidence with flexibility. It requires self-awareness, boundary setting, clear communication, emotional regulation, and consistent practice. When you engage assertively, you create connections that are authentic, mutually respectful, and empowering. These relationships provide support, growth, and fulfillment, while ensuring that your needs, boundaries, and energy are honored. Assertive relationships are not only healthier, they are transformative. They allow you to communicate your truth, protect your energy, navigate conflict with integrity, and cultivate genuine connection. By mastering assertiveness, you take control of your interactions, strengthen your personal power, and foster a life of balance, respect, and authentic engagement. Chapter 10. Living authentically and taking full control. Living authentically is the culmination of all the lessons you have learned on this journey. It is the act of aligning your thoughts, actions, and choices with your true self, your values, priorities, and personal vision, without being unduly influenced by external pressures, expectations, or the need for approval. Taking full control of your life is not about exerting power over others. It is about reclaiming authority over your own mind, energy, and decisions. Authentic living is freedom. Freedom from people-pleasing, fear, guilt, and societal pressures. It is the conscious creation of a life that reflects who you truly are. The first step in living authentically is self-knowledge. You cannot live true to yourself if you do not know who you are, what you want, and what you value. Self-reflection, journaling, meditation, and honest conversations with yourself help clarify your goals, beliefs, and desires. Ask yourself, what are my non-negotiables? Which actions or behaviors feel aligned with my values, and which feel like compromise? Which relationships, commitments, or habits support my authentic self, and which detract from it? By gaining clarity about these questions, you lay the foundation for a life guided by intention rather than obligation. Self-awareness also includes recognizing the influences that have shaped you, both positive and negative. Past experiences, family expectations, cultural norms, and societal conditioning can subtly guide your decisions, often in ways that are inconsistent with your authentic self. Take time to identify these influences and determine whether they serve your well-being or hinder your growth. Awareness allows you to make conscious choices rather than unconsciously repeating patterns that no longer serve you. Courage is an essential companion to authenticity. Living true to yourself often requires stepping into discomfort, breaking free from approval-seeking, and facing potential criticism or rejection. Courage does not mean the absence of fear. It means taking action despite fear. It means asserting your boundaries, voicing your opinions, and prioritizing your values, even when doing so challenges others' expectations. Each courageous act strengthens your confidence, reinforces your personal power, and deepens your sense of authenticity. Decision-making is a central component of taking full control. Every choice, from small daily actions to major life decisions, is an opportunity to act authentically. Evaluate options through the lens of your values and priorities. Ask yourself, does this choice reflect who I am and what I want? Or does it serve someone else's expectations? Decisions aligned with your true self create momentum, energy, and fulfillment, while choices based on compliance or fear often lead to regret, resentment, and depletion. Mastery over decision-making is mastery over your life. Boundaries are the practical tools that enable authenticity. They protect your energy, time, and emotional well-being, creating space for intentional living. Boundaries apply to work, relationships, social interactions, and personal habits. They are a declaration that your life is yours to manage, that your priorities are important, and that your values are non-negotiable. Consistently enforcing boundaries ensures that your life is shaped by intention, not external demands. Authenticity requires aligning actions with beliefs. It is not enough to know your values. You must act on them consistently. For example, if honesty is a core value, ensure that your words and actions reflect transparency. If self-care is important, Prioritize habits and routines that nurture your mind and body. Consistency between thought, word, and deed builds integrity, reinforces self-respect, and strengthens the sense of empowerment that comes from living authentically. Emotional resilience is also key to maintaining control and authenticity. Life will present challenges, conflicts, and moments when others resist or question your choices. Emotional resilience allows you to navigate these situations without abandoning your values or compromising your well-being. Practices such as mindfulness, reflection, and self-compassion help regulate emotions, reduce reactivity, and maintain clarity, allowing you to respond to life from a place of strength rather than fear or obligation. Authenticity thrives in environments that support your true self. Evaluate your relationships, work environments, and social circles. Surround yourself with people who respect your boundaries, encourage your growth, and honor your authenticity. Reduce or eliminate exposure to individuals or situations that consistently undermine your values, drain your energy, or pressure you into conformity. The environments you create directly influence your ability to maintain authenticity and exercise control over your life. Accountability is an important element of living authentically. Take responsibility for your actions, choices, and their consequences. Authenticity is not about blaming external circumstances or avoiding responsibility. It is about owning your life fully. When you acknowledge both successes and mistakes honestly, you strengthen your integrity, learn from experience, and reinforce the principle that your life is yours to guide. Accountability also ensures that your authenticity is not a passive state, but an active, deliberate practice. Personal growth is inseparable from authentic living. Continuously seek opportunities to expand your skills, deepen your understanding, and explore your passions. Growth may require learning new skills, confronting fears, or letting go of limiting beliefs. Each step toward growth reinforces your autonomy, builds confidence, and strengthens the foundation for a life aligned with your true self. Stagnation and complacency are incompatible with authenticity. They limit choice and dilute personal power. Gratitude and reflection enhance the practice of authenticity. Regularly acknowledge the progress you have made, the boundaries you have set, and the choices that honor your values. Reflection allows you to assess alignment between your actions and your true self, identify areas for adjustment, and celebrate your growth. Gratitude reinforces the positive aspects of living authentically and encourages continued commitment to self-directed, intentional living. Risk-taking is often required for authentic living. Pursuing your true path may involve stepping away from familiar routines, relationships, or expectations. Risk is inherent in asserting independence, expressing your truth, and prioritizing personal fulfillment over external validation. Embracing risk with careful consideration, preparation, and courage allows you to expand your influence, pursue meaningful goals, and fully exercise your personal power. Self-compassion is an essential ally. Living authentically does not mean perfection. It means alignment, intention, and integrity. Mistakes, setbacks, and missteps are inevitable. Treat yourself with kindness, learn from experiences, and adjust course without harsh self-criticism. Self-compassion fosters resilience, encourages persistence, and ensures that your journey toward authenticity is sustainable, empowering, and fulfilling. Ultimately, living authentically is about freedom. Freedom from fear, guilt, overcommitment, and the need for external validation. Freedom to prioritize your values, pursue your goals, and engage in relationships that honor your boundaries. Freedom to create a life that is intentional, fulfilling, and aligned with your true self. By taking full control, you claim responsibility for your destiny, exercise personal power, and cultivate a life rich with purpose, clarity, and empowerment. The journey toward authentic living is continuous. Each choice, boundary, and act of courage reinforces your path, shaping a life that is uniquely yours. By integrating the lessons of previous chapters, saying no without guilt, stopping people-pleasing, reclaiming time and energy, speaking your truth, mastering emotional boundaries, and building assertive relationships, you create a foundation for a life of intentionality, integrity, and fulfillment. Authenticity is not a luxury, it is a necessity. It is the framework through which you exercise control, honor your needs, and live with clarity and confidence. Each day offers opportunities to choose alignment over compromise, courage over fear, and intention over obligation. As you commit to living authentically, you step into your full power, take command of your life, and embrace the freedom and fulfillment that come from being unapologetically yourself. Living authentically and taking full control is the ultimate expression of self-respect and personal empowerment. It allows you to navigate life with confidence, make decisions aligned with your values, and build relationships rooted in mutual respect and authenticity. By integrating the principles of this book into your daily life, you unlock the capacity to live intentionally, love authentically, and act with clarity, purpose, and freedom. As we reach the end of this journey, remember that taking control of your life is not a one-time decision. It is a daily practice. Every choice, boundary, and act of courage reinforces your personal power and brings you closer to living authentically. Being kind does not mean sacrificing yourself. It means learning to give from a place of strength, clarity, and intention. You now have the tools to stop people-pleasing, reclaim your time and energy, speak your truth, master emotional boundaries, and build assertive, empowering relationships. But knowledge alone is not enough. Action is what transforms your life. Each step you take, no matter how small, moves you closer to a life that reflects your true self, honors your values, and protects your energy. Embrace your power, trust yourself, and live intentionally. Your life is yours to shape, your energy is yours to protect, and your voice is yours to be heard. The path ahead may challenge you, but every challenge is an opportunity to grow, assert yourself, and live more fully. Kindness, when combined with self-respect, courage, and authenticity, becomes a force for true empowerment, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. Step into that power, live boldly, live authentically, and take full control of the life you were meant to lead.